Left by her own daughter at the trading post, she found hope. When a poor cowboy came, the sun was high in the sky, burning the dry land around the old trading post. Dust moved slowly in the wind, covering everything in a thin layer of brown. The place looked tired, just like the people who stopped there. On a wooden bench near the entrance, an old woman sat very still. Her name was Martha Callahan. Her hands were resting in her lap, holding on to each other as if they were the only thing keeping her steady. Her dress was clean but old, and her shoes were worn from travel. Her eyes, once full of life, now looked distant, fixed on the empty road ahead. Just that morning, she had arrived with her daughter, Clara. Martha could still remember how the wagon had stopped. Clara had smiled, but it was not the warm smile Martha knew from years ago. It was quick, nervous, almost forced. "Wait here, Ma," Clara had said. "I just need to get something inside." Martha had nodded. She trusted her. She always had. So she waited. Minutes passed, then more. The sun moved higher. People came and went. Wagons rolled in, then out again. But Clara never returned. At first, Martha told herself it was taking longer than expected. Maybe there was a long line. Maybe something had gone wrong inside. But as the hours passed, a quiet fear began to grow in her chest. She stood once, slowly, her legs weak, and looked around. "Clara?" she called softly. No answer. She walked a few steps toward the road, her eyes searching every passing face. But deep inside, she already knew. Clara had not gone inside the trading post. She had left. Left her there. Martha sat back down, her body feeling heavier than before. The world around her continued like nothing had happened. A man laughed near the water barrels. Two children ran past, chasing each other. A trader shouted prices from inside the store. Life moved on. But for Martha, everything had stopped. She did not cry. Not at first. The pain was too quiet for tears. It sat deep inside her, like a stone. From time to time, people looked at her, some with curiosity, some with pity. But no one asked questions. In places like this, everyone carried their own troubles. No one wanted to carry someone else's. As the sun began to lower, the air grew cooler. The long shadows stretched across the ground. Martha had not moved much. She had not eaten. Finally, the storekeeper came out. He was a middle-aged man with tired eyes and a slow walk. He had noticed her sitting there all day. He stopped a few steps away. "Ma'am," he said gently, "you waiting for someone?" Martha looked up at him. For a moment, she wanted to tell the truth. She wanted to say that her own daughter had left her behind like something unwanted, but the words would not come. "I'm waiting," she said quietly. The man studied her face. He understood more than she had said, but he did not push. "Well," he said, "we close soon. You got somewhere to stay?" Martha gave a small shake of her head, then quickly looked away. The man sighed softly. "There's a small shed out back. Ain't much, but it'll keep the wind off you for the night." Martha nodded slowly. "Thank you." He gave her one last look, then went back inside. The sky turned orange, then red. The heat of the day slowly faded, replaced by a cool evening breeze. The trading post began to quiet down. One by one, the wagons left. The voices disappeared. Soon, Martha was almost alone. She sat there, listening to the silence. It felt loud, pressing against her ears. For the first time, her eyes filled with tears. "How could she?" Martha whispered to herself. Her voice broke before she could finish. She remembered Clara as a little girl, laughing, running through fields, holding her hand tightly. She remembered the nights they spent talking, the dreams they once shared. When had it changed? When had love turned into distance? A single tear rolled down her cheek, then another. Just as she wiped them away, she heard something in the distance. Hoofbeats. Slow. Steady. Martha looked up. On the far road, a lone rider was coming closer. The man sat straight on his horse, moving at an easy pace. His clothes were simple and worn. His hat was low, shading his face. He did not look rich. He did not look important. Just a poor cowboy passing through. The horse stopped in front of the trading post. The man climbed down slowly, tying the reins to a wooden post. His movements were calm, careful. Then he turned. His eyes landed on Martha. For a moment, he simply looked at her, not quickly, not with judgment, but with quiet attention, as if he truly saw her sitting there, not just as an old woman, but as someone who mattered. Martha felt something shift inside her. The cowboy stepped closer, his boots making soft sounds on the dirt. "Evening, ma'am," he said in a low, respectful voice. Martha hesitated, then nodded. "Evening." He glanced at the empty road, then back at her. "You been here long?" Martha swallowed. Since morning. The cowboy frowned slightly. He did not ask more questions right away. Instead, he looked toward the closed store, then back at her again. Something in his expression changed, something serious, like he understood. And in that quiet moment, under the fading light of the setting sun, Martha realized she was no longer completely invisible. Someone had finally stopped. And maybe, just maybe, everything was not over yet. The night air had turned cold, and the trading post stood quiet under the dim light of a single lantern. Martha still sat on the bench, unsure of what to do next. The cowboy stood a few steps away, studying her with calm, thoughtful eyes. "My name's Eli," he said after a moment. "Eli Turner." Martha nodded slowly. "Martha Callahan." Eli tipped his hat slightly. "Ma'am." There was a short silence between them, but it was not uncomfortable. It felt steady. Eli looked toward the closed store, then back at Martha. "You eaten today?" Martha hesitated. She didn't want to admit it, but the truth was clear. No. Eli didn't say anything more. He simply turned and walked toward his horse. From one of the saddlebags, he pulled out a small cloth bundle. When he returned, he sat down beside her and opened it. Inside was some bread and a bit of dried meat. He handed it to her. "Ain't much," he said, "but it'll help." Martha looked at the food, then at him. "I don't have any money." Eli gave a small shrug. "Didn't ask for any." For a moment, Martha just stared at him. Kindness like this. It felt strange now, almost unfamiliar. Slowly, she took the food. "Thank you," she said softly. She ate slowly, trying not to seem too hungry, but Eli noticed. He looked away, giving her space, as if he understood her pride. After a while, Martha spoke again. "Why would you help me?" Eli leaned back slightly, resting his arms on his knees. "Don't know," he said honestly. "Just didn't seem right, you sitting here alone like that." Martha looked down at her hands. "Most people don't stop." Eli nodded. "Most people got their own troubles." "And you don't?" Eli let out a quiet breath, almost like a small laugh. "Oh, I do," he said. "Plenty of 'em." Martha glanced at his worn clothes, his tired horse, the simple things he carried. It was clear he wasn't a man with much, yet he had still chosen to share. That stayed with her. The wind picked up slightly, making the wooden boards creak. Martha pulled her shawl closer around her shoulders. Eli noticed. He stood up and walked over to his horse again. This time, he took out an old blanket, thin but clean. He placed it gently beside her. "It'll get colder later," he said. Martha's eyes softened. "You'll need this yourself." "I'll manage." She wanted to argue, but something in his tone told her it wouldn't matter. She wrapped the blanket around herself, feeling a small warmth, not just from the cloth but from the kindness behind it. They sat together in silence for a while. The stars began to appear in the sky, bright and endless. After some time, Martha spoke again, her voice quiet. "My daughter brought me here." Eli didn't interrupt. "She said we were going somewhere better," Martha continued. "A new place, a fresh start." Her voice trembled slightly. "But she never came back." Eli's jaw tightened a little, but he said nothing. "I kept telling myself there was a reason," Martha whispered. "But I think she just didn't want me anymore." The words hung heavy in the air. Eli looked out into the dark distance. "People make hard choices," he said slowly. "Sometimes wrong ones." Martha gave a weak smile. "That's a kind way to say it." Eli glanced at her. "Ain't my place to judge. But I can say this, what she did don't decide your worth." Martha looked at him, surprised. No one had spoken to her like that in a long time. "I feel like it does," she admitted. Eli shook his head. "Nah, a person ain't worth less just 'cause someone else walked away." Martha didn't answer, but his words stayed with her. A little while later, the storekeeper stepped outside again. "We're closing up now," he called. "You'll need to move along." Martha stood slowly, her body stiff. She looked around, unsure of where to go. The small shed the man mentioned earlier suddenly felt very far away and very lonely. Eli stood as well, brushing dust from his pants. He watched her for a moment, then spoke carefully. "I got a place not too far from here." Martha turned to him. "It ain't much," he continued. "Just a small cabin, but it's got a roof, a bed, and a fire pit." Martha's heart beat a little faster. She understood what he was offering. "You can stay the night," Eli said. "No trouble." Martha hesitated. Trust was not easy anymore. Just that morning, she had trusted her own daughter, and that trust had left her here. She studied Eli's face. There was no pressure in his eyes, no hidden meaning, just simple honesty. "You don't even know me," she said. Eli gave a small nod. "That's true." "Then why?" He thought for a second, then answered simply, "Because you need help." The answer was so plain, so direct that Martha didn't know what to say. The wind blew again, colder now. The empty land stretched out in every direction, dark and wide. Martha looked at the road where her daughter had disappeared. Then she looked back at Eli. This was a choice: stay alone, or trust a stranger. Slowly, she took a breath. "All right," she said softly. Eli nodded once, like he had expected that answer. He helped her onto the horse, making sure she was steady. Then he climbed up behind her, holding the reins. The horse began to move, slow and steady, away from the trading post. As they rode into the quiet night, Martha held the blanket tightly around her. She didn't know where this road would lead, but for the first time since morning, she was no longer facing it alone. The small cabin stood alone in the middle of the open land. It was old, with rough wooden walls and a roof that looked like it had seen many storms, but it was standing strong. For Martha, it felt like a safe place. The first night she slept better than she expected. The bed was simple, the blanket thin, but there was a quiet peace inside the cabin. No loud voices, no fear of being left behind again. Eli slept outside near the fire. In the morning, Martha woke early. Sunlight came through the small window, lighting up the room. For a moment, she forgot everything. Then the memory returned, but it didn't hurt as sharply as before. She stepped outside. Eli was already awake, feeding the horse and checking a broken fence. "Morning," he said without turning. "Morning," Martha replied. There was something calm about the way he lived. He didn't rush, he didn't complain. He just worked, quietly and steadily. Over the next few days, Martha stayed at the cabin. At first, she felt like a guest, but slowly, she began to help. She cleaned the inside, fixed small things, and cooked simple meals from what little they had. Eli never asked her to do anything, but he didn't stop her either. It gave her a reason to move, to feel useful again. One afternoon, as Martha sat outside sewing a torn shirt, she looked around. The land was wide and empty, but it didn't feel lonely anymore. It felt peaceful. Eli walked over and placed a bucket of water near her. "You're good with that," he said, nodding at the shirt. Martha gave a small smile. "I used to do this all the time." Eli sat down on a wooden crate. "You still do." She looked at him, surprised by how simple his words were, and how much they meant. For the first time in a long while, Martha felt like she still had something to offer. But peace does not last forever. That same afternoon, a sound broke the silence. Hoofbeats, fast and sharp. Martha looked up. A man was riding toward the cabin. His clothes were clean and fine, very different from Eli's. His horse was strong and well fed. Eli stood up slowly, his face turning serious. The rider stopped in front of the cabin and jumped down. He didn't smile. "Eli Turner," the man said, his voice cold. Eli crossed his arms. "Didn't expect you this soon." "I'm not here for a visit," the man replied. Martha stayed where she was, watching quietly. "What do you want?" Eli asked. The man stepped closer. "You know what I want?" "Money." Eli's jaw tightened. "I told you. I need more time." The man laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You've already had time." Martha's hands stopped moving. She could feel the tension in the air growing. "I'll get it," Eli said firmly. The man shook his head. "No, not this time." Then his eyes shifted toward Martha. "And what's this?" he said with a smirk. "You running a shelter now?" Eli quickly stepped in front of her. "Leave her out of this." The man raised an eyebrow. "Why? She part of the debt?" "No," Eli said sharply. Martha felt a chill run through her. Debt. So Eli wasn't just poor. He owed something. Something serious. The man stepped closer to Eli. "You help strangers, but you can't pay what you owe?" he said mockingly. Eli didn't answer. The man's voice grew harder. "You got 3 days." "That's not enough," Eli replied. "It's what you've got," the man said. "After that I come back. And I don't come alone." He gave one last look at Martha, then turned, got on his horse, and rode away. Silence filled the space again. Martha stood slowly. "Eli." He didn't look at her right away. He just stared at the ground. "I didn't know," she said softly. Eli let out a long breath. "Didn't want you to. What kind of trouble is this?" Eli finally looked at her. "The kind that don't go away easy." Martha's heart felt heavy. This man, who had given her food, shelter, and kindness, was in danger, and she was part of the reason. "If I wasn't here," she began. Eli shook his head quickly. "Don't say that. This ain't on you." "But you're already struggling," Martha said. "And now?" "And now nothing changes," Eli interrupted. "I'd be in this mess either way." Martha looked at him carefully. He wasn't blaming her, not even a little. That made it harder. That night, the cabin felt different. The quiet was no longer peaceful. It was tense. Martha lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Her mind was full of thoughts. She had spent days feeling like a burden, like someone left behind. But now, she saw something else. Eli had nothing, and still, he had chosen to help her. Now he was the one in trouble. Martha sat up slowly. Her hands were no longer shaking. A new feeling had taken its place. Determination. She whispered softly to herself, "I won't let this happen." Outside, Eli sat by the fire, staring into the flames. He thought he was alone in his problems. But inside the cabin, Martha was already making a choice that would change both their lives. And in just a few days, everything would come to a breaking point. The next 3 days passed quickly, but each moment felt heavy. The air around the cabin was no longer calm. It carried a quiet tension, like a storm waiting to arrive. Eli worked harder than ever, fixing fences, checking supplies, trying to find any way to solve his problem. But deep down, he knew the truth. He didn't have the money. Martha watched him carefully. She saw the way he avoided resting, the way his shoulders stayed tense even when he tried to act normal. On the second night, she finally spoke. "You can't do this alone," she said gently. Eli sat by the fire, staring into the flames. "Been doing it alone for a long time," he replied. Martha shook her head. "Not anymore." Eli looked at her, surprised. "Martha, this ain't your fight." She stepped closer, her voice steady. "You helped me when you didn't have to. Now it's my turn." Eli sighed. "You don't understand. These men, they don't just ask twice." "Then we give them something else," Martha said. Eli frowned. "Like what?" Martha paused, thinking carefully. "Time, and a reason to believe they'll get what they want." Eli didn't seem convinced, but before he could reply, Martha added, "Trust me." Those 2 words stayed with him. The third day came. The sky was gray, and the wind moved faster than usual. It felt like even the land knew something was about to happen. By afternoon, they heard it. Hoofbeats. More than one this time. Martha stepped outside beside Eli. 3 riders approached, led by the same man from before. His face was cold, his eyes sharp. They stopped in front of the cabin. "Well," the man said, climbing down slowly. "Time's up." Eli stood firm. "I told you I'd pay." "You didn't," the man replied. "So now we do this my way." The other men stayed close behind him, silent but ready. Martha could feel her heart beating fast, but she did not step back. Instead, she walked forward. "Wait," she said clearly. The men looked at her, surprised. The leader raised an eyebrow. "And who are you to speak?" Martha lifted her chin slightly. "Someone who can help solve your problem." Eli turned to her quickly. "Martha, don't," but she continued. "You want your money," she said. "That's clear. But if you take everything he has now, you get nothing. If you give us time, you get paid." The man studied her carefully. "Why should I believe that?" Martha took a deep breath. "Because I know people. I know places. I've seen land sold, deals made. I may not look like much now, but I wasn't always like this." Her voice grew stronger with each word. "Give us 1 month. I'll help him find a way to pay you back. Not excuses, not promises. Real payment." The wind blew between them, carrying the silence. The man walked a slow circle around her, thinking. His boots pressed into the dirt with each step. Eli watched, tense, ready to step in if needed. Finally, the man stopped. 1 month, he said. Eli blinked in surprise. "If you fail," the man continued, his voice sharp, "I come back. And next time, I take more than money." Martha nodded. "That's fair." The man looked at Eli. "You better hope she's right." Then he turned, mounted his horse, and rode away with the others. The sound of hoofbeats faded into the distance. Silence returned. Eli let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "You just made a deal with men like that," he said. Martha gave a small smile. "I've dealt with worse." Eli looked at her, still unsure. "You didn't have to risk that." Martha met his eyes. "Yes, I did." He frowned slightly. She continued softly, "You gave me something I thought I lost." "What's that?" Eli asked. Martha's voice was calm, but full of meaning. "A reason to keep going." Eli didn't reply right away. For the first time, he saw her not as someone he helped, but as someone strong. The next weeks were not easy. They worked every day. Martha helped plan small trades with nearby travelers. She spoke to people passing through, offering simple services, mending clothes, cooking meals, organizing supplies. Eli worked the land, fixed more fences, and even sold small things he had kept for years. Slowly, they began to gather enough. Not just money, but hope. The cabin changed too. It no longer felt empty. There was laughter sometimes, quiet conversations, shared meals. It felt like a home. When the month ended, the riders returned. This time, things were different. Eli stepped forward and handed over the payment. The man counted it, then gave a slow nod. "Looks like you kept your word." Martha stood beside Eli, calm and steady. The man gave her one last look, something close to respect in his eyes. Then he turned and rode away for the final time. They were gone. For good. Eli looked at Martha. "We did it." Martha smiled gently. "No, we did it together." The sun began to set, painting the sky in soft gold and orange. Martha looked out across the land. This place, once strange and empty, now felt warm and full of life. She had been left behind, but she had found something better. Not just safety, not just kindness. She had found a new beginning, and beside her stood someone who had once been a stranger, but was no longer alone either. Sometimes, family wasn't the one you were born into. Sometimes, it was the one you built, one small act of kindness at a time. T.